A tyre, it's a lot of things, but it's mainly what it is between the road and the car, what makes us drive safely and don't have accidents. But a tyre itself is a piece of art. It's been developing for many, many years. It's one of the engineered applications that has been evolved since 19th century until nowadays, and we are still researching on that because it's a commodity that we use every single day. And not only like passengers, but all for transport. I mean, all our economy is based on transport of goods. So that's why it's so necessary, and we don't have any alternative to what tyres are at the moment. And it's shocking to see them in a mountain. But when you go outside and you go into the road, you will see many tyres all the time going and coming. But we don't notice them. They are part of, we see them as a whole with the car. But the truth is that are very, very specific. Because if you check the inside of a tyre, you have a lot of different parts. You have the thread, you have the belt, you have the core plies. I mean, it's not just one thing. It's one thing composed of many different ones. And each part of the tyre has its own properties because it has to fulfill one specific job. I don't know how to say. So to talk about tyre, yes, it's one piece of thing, but it's made of a lot of different parts with different materials for different applications, etc. And of course, you are thinking about passenger car tyres, but we have tyres that are in bikes, much smaller. We have tyres that are more than 2 meters diameter for trucks. I mean, tyre is big in general. I mean, it's all over the place and it's with a lot of different shapes. But don't forget that most of the times, I mean, there are some tyres for bikes that are green, blue, etc. But something that is common to all tyres is always black.
Why?
Because one of the materials we use to make them hard, because it's made of rubber and carbon black and other additives. But the carbon black is the one that will give the rigidity as well. And that is very, very black material. And it's present in all of them. And although we are trying to remove it because it's petrol-based and we are trying to add other minerals, carbon black is giving us properties that other ones won't give us. And we have not only rubber, that is the one that we usually call, but we also have metal, we have fabric. So it's I don't know how to say, it's very difficult because although it would be only the rubber, it would already be difficult because the chemical structure is not like other plastics that you can remelt, you can reshape, and you can give a second life. In this case, if you try to remelt them, you will degrade them because you have to reach very high temperatures. So the problem is that we want them to be very durable, you know, to give us the confidence that you can ride a lot on the road, that they will give us safety. But this same property that makes them so desirable is the cost, because we cannot recycle them so easily. It's not, you know, it's not something that you say, okay, now that it's over, now I do something easy and I get rid of them. No, the same property that makes them durable, the next that they are not going to degrade in nature. 70 or 80% of tyre, it burns very quickly. We only have about 10% that are minerals, etc. But 60% are elastomers, so plastics, let's say, that will burn very quickly. It has a very high calorific value. And even the carbon black comes from fuel-derived materials. So we are talking about a material that we are using in a daily basis that are based on fuel, that it's a limited resource. So although one of the parts that is natural rubber, we can obtain it from trees, the other part, we have a very limited amount. A tyre never dies because of the properties we were talking about, the durability. We make them to be good or to have their properties forever. This is the research that has been ongoing for more than a century. The problem is to find applications and not to just leave them in the landfill. Why it's not you can call it end-of-life tyres or waste tyres. It's not the same. Waste, it has like a negative connotation. End of life is like, okay, it ended up already, the car or the passenger transportation thing. But you have another one. You can use it for artwork. You can use it, cut it in small crumbs to fill even roads, playgrounds, etc. I mean, it's a material that because of the durability, we have to take advantage of this property to try to make different uses. In Lagos, they use tires in the cement factories, in the cement kilns. Why? Because you don't need to transform them anyhow. You take them as they are, and you can add them directly to the kiln, because it works with very high temperatures and for long residence time. So it means that all the tire, without having to remove the metals or without having to remove the fabric, will end up in somehow in the cement. One as energy, and the other one, the ash, the metallic part, the mineral part that it doesn't blow with, it doesn't get to energy, ends up being part of the cement, because there are some like iron, and there are some metals that we usually add. We buy raw material to add to cement, but in this case, the energy source we provide us already with these necessities. Because of the legislation, when tires end up their real life in here, they go to Africa, because they have different legislation that they allowed us to use it a bit more. But what it means is that we are giving away something that is almost waste, that we will have about 2 months extra of life, but then we're giving them the problem of waste management. And if in here that we have all the facilities, that we have the technology, it's difficult to manage it, sending it to places that the infrastructure is worse, it makes it a big problem. And actually here we are very aware. Now in here there is a smell of tire. You say, this is not good. But when you send it somewhere else, people are not aware of those risks. And I think we are doing something bad, because it's like giving the problem to someone else. We have to somehow kind of find an alternative, because at the moment we don't have an alternative for tire. And if we want to continue with transportation and mobility, etc., we have to find a solution. But the problem is that we have ways to recycle. We have ways to reuse them. We have ways, but it's not enough. Okay, we think that nowadays the transportation is getting cleaner, eco-friendly, because we are trying to have electrical cars or hydrogen-based or other energy sources. But we are not aware of the amount of particles we are producing every single moment, because when we talk about the wear tire, it's because these particles that were part of the tire, they end up in the atmosphere, on the corner of the road. And this can be leached into the water fields, into the water stream, like rivers, etc. And it's not really toxic per se, but it can have some chemicals that are not very desirable, let's say. And this will end up everywhere. Even nowadays, they found that there are these kind of micro rubber particles in the North Pole. And in the North Pole, there are not cars. So it means that this is a global issue. Even if I use a car in here and I pollute with some particles here, it will end up all over the world. We will find it in the ocean, we will find it in the top of the mountains, etc. So it's not something that stays in the place that you are producing the problem. It goes global, because tire is a global issue. We are talking about millions and millions and millions of tire, not only the ones that we are producing at the moment, but the ones that we've been producing for the last 100 years. We are still having that problem. So we just are adding up. And until we find a real solution, that I find it pretty difficult, really, because the problem is the amount. We have already techniques with more or less energetic demand to treat them. But if we would have 1 million per year, it won't be an issue. But when we are talking about millions and millions of tire all over the world, all the time, and it doesn't have an end,